Section 4.2, Solving Systems of Linear Equations by Substitution. So we found out that we can solve systems of linear equations by graphing, but if the numbers are very large, or if the answers are fractions, it's not so easy to really find the exact solution. We need an algebraic method. So what we're going to do is use substitution. In one of the equations, we solve for either variable in terms of the other variable. In the other equation, we substitute the expression equal to the variable found in the previous step and solve the resulting equations. Substitute the value found in the previous step in either original equations and solve for the other variable. Check by substituting the values in both equations of the original system. Boy, that sounds complicated, but it's really easy. Our second equation here I really like because it has been solved for y. We know that y equals 3x plus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that information and put it into the first equation. The first equation tells us to take 3 times x minus 2 times y. But from the second equation, we know that y is 3x plus 1. So we substitute 3x plus 1 in place of y in the first equation, and that equals 1. So we've just rewritten the first equation, and instead of y, we substituted the value 3x plus 1. That's an equation that we know how to solve. 3x minus 6x minus 2 equals 1. Minus 3x minus 2 equals 1. Add 1 to both sides. Minus 3x equals 3. Divide both sides by a negative 3. And we get x equals a negative 1. So now we know what x is. X is negative 1. What's y? Well, we know that y is 3x plus 1, and since we know that x is negative 1, we can substitute negative 1 in place of x and solve for y. Negative 3 plus 1, y equals negative 2. Our solution is the point negative 1, negative 2. We know that that solution works for y equals 3x plus 1. Let's check it by seeing if 3x minus 2y equals 1 when x is negative 1 and y is negative 2. Negative 3 plus 4 equals 1. 1 equals 1. It checks. That's our solution. Negative 1, negative 2. What about this system of equations? This system I'm not as happy about. I know that 2x minus y equals 4, 6x minus or plus 2y equals negative 3, but neither equation has been solved for either x or y. So we have to solve one of the equations for one of the variables. It is easiest to solve for a variable that has a coefficient of 1, the number that has multiplied it. If it's a positive 1 or a negative 1, it will be easier for us to solve for it. So I'm going to solve the first equation for y. Because it's 2x minus y, there's no numerical coefficient except 1. It's understood to be a negative 1. So if we take our 2x minus y equals 4, and let's add y to both sides, because I would like for y to be positive. 2x equals y plus 4. We're solving for y. Let's subtract 4 from both sides. 2x minus 4 equals y. Now we know what y equals. Y is 2x minus 4. We solved the first equation for y. We're going to put that information into the second equation. So we have 6x x plus 2 times y. What is y? Y is 2x minus 4. And that equals negative 3. So 6x plus 4x minus 8 equals negative 3. Combine our like terms. 10x minus 8 equals negative 3. We're solving for x. Let's add 8 to both sides. We get 10x equals 5. Divide by 10. X equals 1/2. Ooh, a fraction for an answer. We never would have found that by graphing because it's really hard to tell in the graph where 1/2 is. Now we know that x is 1/2, so what is y? Well, y is 2x minus 4, and if x is 1/2, it's 2 times 1/2 minus 4. So that gives us 1 minus 4 is y. Y is a negative 3. So our solution, the point where these two lines cross, is the point 1/2 negative 3. We can check that. We used our first equation to find x and then y. So let's check it by substituting these x and y values into the second equation. So 6 times 1/2 plus 2 times a negative 3. Does that equal negative 3? So that's 3 plus a negative 6. Does that equal negative 3? Negative 3 equals negative 3. Yes, it does. It checks. That's our solution. What about this system of equations? Remember, we want one of the equations to be solved for one of the variables. It is easier to solve for a variable that has a coefficient of 1, that is 1 times x or 1 times y. So I'm going to solve for x in the second equation because its numerical coefficient is 1. It's 1x. So if we add 5x to both sides, we get x equals, or 5y, x equals 5y plus 7. That's what x is. So we're going to put that information into the first equation. 2 times x, but x is 5y plus 7, minus 10 times y equals 11. 10y plus 14 minus 10y equals 11. Those are like terms. Let's combine them. That gives us 0. They just wipe each other out. So we get 14 equals 11. Wait a minute. That's not true. That's not true at all. And y disappeared. That's a problem. Let's think about what our situation is here. We said that if you had a linear system of linear equations, it could be that they cross, and the solution, there's one solution there. The solution is where the two lines cross. We said that sometimes the lines are parallel. They never cross. There is no solution. And we also said that our third option is that the line is actually on top of it. The two lines are on top of each other. It's the same line. And if that's the situation, we have not one solution, we do have an infinite number of solutions. So what do you think? If we get something that's not true, never true, 14 equals 11, we know it's not that there's one solution, or we would have found it. Is it that there's no solution, or there's an infinite number of solutions? What do you think? I think it's that there's no solution. because 14 equals 11 is not true, never true. There's not a solution. There's never going to be a solution. So for this problem, the answer is no solution. These lines are parallel. We can prove that by looking at the original two lines and seeing what their slope is. So if we solve the first equation, 2x minus 10y equals 11, let's solve that equation for y. Let's subtract 2x from both sides. Minus 10y equals minus 2x plus 11. Let's divide by negative 10. And we get y equals 1/5 x minus 11/10. What about the second equation? The second equation is x minus 5y equals 7. Let's solve for y. We'll subtract x from both sides. We get minus 5y equals minus x plus 7. Divide everything by negative 5. And we get y equals 1/5 x minus 7/5. Now look at those two lines. This one has a slope of 1/5. This one has a slope of 1/5. Those lines are parallel, so there's no solution. No solution. Look at this line. The first line, we have 3x plus 9y equals negative 12. The second one, we have negative 2x minus 6y equals 8. There's not really a good variable to solve for here, so I'm going to solve the second equation for x. That's the smallest coefficient of negative 2, so we'll solve for x. So if we add 2y to 6y to both sides, we get negative 2x equals 8 plus 6y. Divide by negative 2, and we get x equals negative 4 minus 3y. So that's what x equals, negative 4 minus 3y. Let's put that information into the first equation. So we'll have 3 times x. Wait a minute. X is negative 4 minus 3y. So I'm going to substitute that value into the first equation. Plus 9y equals negative 12. We solve the second equation for x. We substitute the value into the first equation. Negative 12 minus 9y plus 9y equals negative 12. Look at that, minus 9y plus 9y. We get negative 12 equals negative 12. That's always true. This is another different kind of situation. We said last time that we could have one solution. We could have no solution. The lines are parallel. In order to recognize that we have that, we get something that's not true, like 14 equals 11. And then we said there's this third case of infinitely many solutions. How do we know when there's infinitely many solutions? Every point on the line is true. Or, algebraically, we get something that is always true. That tells us that there are infinitely many solutions. Infinitely many solutions. And that happens when it's the same line. We didn't really recognize that. Let's go back and look at those equations that we were given. We have originally 3x plus 9y equals negative 12, and negative 2x minus 6y equals 8. Those are the same lines. They represent the same equations. If you divide the first equation by 3, you will get x plus 3y equals negative 4. If you divide the second equation by negative 2, you will get x plus 3y equals negative 4. It's the same equation. It just looked different. You take that same equation, x plus 3y equals negative 4, multiply it by 3, you get the first one. Multiply it by negative 2, you get the second one. It's the same equation. It's the same line. So there are infinitely many solutions. It's the same line. When the substitution results in a false statement, there is no solution. The lines are parallel. When the substitution results in a true statement, there are infinitely many solutions. The graphs of both equations are the same line, and all points on that line are solutions. Cheap rental charges $20 per day plus 10 cents per mile to rent a mid-sized car. Ted's rental charges $32 a day plus 7 cents per mile for the same car. Express these relationships as an algebraic system where C represents cost and M represents miles driven in one day. C represents cost, so for cheap rental, the cost will be $20 a day plus 10 cents, 0.10, per mile driven. Ted's rental charges $32 a day, so the cost for renting Ted's rental will be $32 a day plus 7 cents per mile. Solve the system, interpret the results. So we want for one of the equations to be solved for one of the variables. That's easy because both equations have been solved for C. Well, if cost of the first one and cost is the second one, we can just set those costs equal to each other. Why not set 20 plus 0.10m equal to 32 plus 0.07m? We have one equation and one variable, just m, so we're going to solve for m. Let's subtract 0.07m from both sides. So that gives us 0.03m. Let's subtract 20 and get rid of it over on the left. So that'll give us 12. 0.03m equals 12. Divide by 0.03, and we get m equals 400. M is 400. What is C? Well, you can use either one of the original two equations to find out what C is. C is 20 plus 0.10 times m, and m is 400. So C equals 20 plus 40. The cost is 60. So the solution to this system of equations is 400 miles will cost you $60. I put the 400 miles first because the miles depends upon, or the cost depends upon the miles. So what does it mean in terms of this problem? If you drive 400 miles, then the cost of cheap rental and the cost of Ted's rental will be exactly the same. They will both charge you $60. A chemical storeroom has two solutions in stock. One is 20% acid, the other 60% acid. How many centiliters of each solution should be mixed to obtain 200 centiliters of a 44% solution? So we need to let X represent the number of centiliters of the 20% solution. So we're going to let it Y represent the number of centiliters of the 60% solution. So we know that if we add X plus Y together, if you add the two liquids together, how much liquid will you have? 200 centiliters. So our one equation is just about the liquid, how much liquid is involved. But now we have to deal with these percentages. We have to figure out what equation will tell us about the percentages. Now remember, we had originally for our equation of percents, we had a percent over 100 equals the is number over the of number. So we said you could multiply both sides by the of number to get that is number. So if you want to calculate how much pure acid is in that first solution, we're going to take 20 over 100 times how much liquid is there, X, plus how much pure acid is in the second solution. We have 60 over 100 times how much liquid is there, Y. And that equals a 44% solution. So 44% of how much liquid there is. How much liquid is there in the final resulting mixture? 200 centiliters. That gives us our second equation. We can change this to 20 over 100 is 0.20x plus 0.60y equals, what is 44 over 100 times 200? That is 88. That's our two equations. We better solve them. What are they again? We have x plus y equals 200. And we have 0.20x plus 0.60y equals 88. We want to solve one of the equations for one of the variables. I would like to solve the first equation for x. That seems easy. Subtract y from both sides. You get x is 200 minus y. We're going to put that information into the second equation. So 0.20x, but what is x? Is 200 minus y, plus 0.60y equals 88. The nice thing about this is we got rid of the x. We just have y's now. We can deal with that. So that's going to be 40 minus 0.20y plus 0.60y equals 88. Combine those like terms and you get 0.40. Subtract 40 from both sides. So 0.40 equals 48. Should be a y in there. I lost my y. Let's divide by 0.40. And we get y equals, what is 48 divided by 0.40? 120. and that's in centiliters. So we want 120 centiliters of our 60% solution. What is x? Well, the easiest way to find that out is go back to our x equals 200 minus y. Altogether we have 200 centiliters of this liquid. So we get x equals 200 minus 120. So we get x equals 80 centiliters. So we want 80 centiliters of our 20% solution and 120 centiliters of our 60% solution. An investor has $40,000 to invest in 2 mutual funds. The first fund yields an 8% return. The second yields a 13% return. If the investor seeks a total return of $4,000, how much should she invest in each fund? So altogether, we have $40,000. We're going to invest it in 2 funds. Let's let X be the number of dollars that we invest at 8%. So Y will be the number of dollars we invest at 13%. So if we add the amount of money that we invested in each fund, that'll give us $40,000. That's how much money we've got to invest. We want to get $4,000 interest from this. How are we going to calculate interest? We'll take our percentage, we'll take 8% of the amount we invested, that's X, plus 13% of the amount we invested at 13%, that's Y. And if we add those two together, we have to get $4,000 interest from this investment. We can rewrite this. 8 over 100 is 0.08 or 0.08, however you want to put it, times X plus 0.13 times Y equals 4,000. So we have 2 equations. We have X plus Y equals 40,000 and 0.08X plus 0.13Y equals 4,000. So now we need to solve one of the equations for one of the variables. That first equation is going to be easier to work with because it has X plus Y. That's easy to solve for X or Y. X equals, just take your 40,000 and we're subtracting Y from both sides. That gives us our X. We can now rewrite the second equation. We want to substitute that information into the second equation. 0.08X, what is X? That's 40,000 minus Y plus 0.13Y equals 4,000. What's 0.08 times 40,000? That's $3,200 minus 0.08Y plus 0.13Y equals 4,000. We're going to combine these like terms. We'll get 0.05Y. How about we go ahead and subtract 3,200 from both sides? That'll give us 800. Divide by 0.05. We get Y equals $16,000. So that's how much we're going to invest at 13%. We have a total of $40,000 to invest. X plus Y is 40,000. So what is X? 40,000 minus Y. 40,000 minus $16,000. $24,000. We'll invest that at 8%. And that's our answer. 24,000 at 8%, 16,000 at 13%. That's all for this section.